Alright, so here we are inside of CS5. Now I gotta tell you that I am still getting used to CS5. I never even went to CS4, so this is kind of a huge leap for me. I'm not used to this whole area being over here and motion editor and all that stuff, so I guess I'm kind of old school, CS3, you know. Anyways, so why don't we take a look at what we have in our movie. Okay, so let's look around. Got some basic text, some more text. Here we have a dynamic text field. It's called goal_text, and also we have one called %_text. Also something to note is that I went ahead and embedded a font. Arial, I did numbers and punctuation because I'm going to be using only numbers and punctuation. Down here we have a button, or donate_button. It's a movie clip. Here's our bar. It's called bar. Why don't we go ahead and say MC so we know. bar_MC. And something to note is that the registration point for the bar movie clip is at the very bottom because we're going to animate it going up. So, that being said, why don't we go ahead and write some code. I'm going to lock down my layers. Window action. Alright, so here we go. So the first thing we want to do is just declare some variables. Now we know we're going to have a goal that we're trying to hit, so do that. Goal number. Another variable we need is going to be the actual amount of money that we've raised. So I'm going to call that actual number. And something else that we're going to need is to calculate a percentage of how much actual we've raised of a goal. So that's going to be var %, and that's a number. Okay, so let's see what else. Why don't we go ahead and write an initializing function that gets called as soon as our SWF plays. Save it. Okay, so as soon as our SWF plays, we need to give goal and actual and percent some values so we can display it. So give the nums some vals. Okay, so let's say for now goal equals 1,000, actual equals 100. These are just temporary, I guess. And how do we find percent? Now, I'm not very good at math, okay? I hate to admit it. But I do know how to calculate a percentage in Flash. So the way I remember to do this is to always divide the small number by the big number. That's how I get a percentage. So percent is equal to actual divided by goal. Why don't we go ahead and trace out what that says, or what that value is. Okay, 0.1. So actual, or 100 is 0.1% of 1,000. You might be thinking, well, isn't a percentage supposed to look like this? And yes, it is, but for now, this is actually what we want. Later on, we're going to convert it to this format. Okay? Sorry, I'm a habitual saver. I always save, I can't help it. So next things we want to do, why don't we go ahead and populate these text fields with the right information. So, we do that. Populate text fields. Okay, so first things first, goal_text equals, and we know we're going to need this $sign, so with that we can just concatenate whatever goal is. Okay, so also we want to find a percent to put into our percent text field. We have that here. Okay, so percent text dot text equals percent. Now we know we're also going to want the percent sign, and why don't we go ahead and run that and see what that does. Okay, so goal looks good, but if you notice, percent has this percent 0.1. Now I don't really like that because, like I said earlier, I want percent to look like so. So how do we convert that? That's easy. All we do is multiply percent times 100, and that'll give us 10%. Now, another thing to think about is, what if actual is something like 150, let me do something like 123, okay? Okay, 12.3%. I don't really like these decimal points, so I'm actually just going to go ahead and round this number down. So math.round, and let me go ahead and make this window a little bigger. Move that over here. Okay, so math.round, we're going to round percent times 100 down, and let's see what that gives us. Okay, 12%. I like that a little better. Okay, next thing we want to do is make this bar reflect that we've raised 12% of the goal. So, how do we do that? Very simple. You close that. Resize bar. Okay, so bar mc dot scale y equals percent. So essentially what we're saying is the height of this needs to be whatever percent is, and that's going to give us like point, whatever it is. So in this case, the decimal points are good. We don't need the percent sign. Let's see what happens. Okay, so our bar is reflecting 12% of its height. So that is good. Alright, so let's see. Okay, so we got that. Now, why don't we go ahead and write the code that's going to get our variables from SWFObject. Okay. So how do we get variables from SWFObject? Well, it's very simple. The way we reference them is we say root.loaderinfo.parameters, and then we pass in the name of the parameter that we want to grab from SWFObject. Okay, the problem is, let's see if that even gives us an error. No. Okay. The problem is that if this is undefined, or actually, if I trace this out, it's going to come back undefined. So I don't want undefined variables going into my movie if it can't find those. So I want to give it some sort of default. Okay, so why don't we do that? So the way I can do that is to say if root.loaders parameters.goal, or I'm sorry, parameters goal is not equal to null, then I'm going to set goal is equal to whatever root.loaderinfo.parameters goal is. So if in my HTML page I set goal to be equal to 1,000, then that's what it is. Same thing for actual equals but in this case we're looking for actual. Okay, so what happens if we don't find any variables? How about we just give it a default, and we'll use these. And assign them to our vars. Okay. Okay, so let's see what happens when we compile that now. You can see that our percentage is still 1,000, and or I'm sorry, our goal is still 1,000, and our percentage is still 12, because right now it's not finding these values because we're just compiling it in the IDE, and it's not a big, it doesn't even see those, you know. So we're just giving it these default values. So why don't we hop on over to TextMate and give it some values. Okay, let me close this down. Close. Let's see what we got here. All right, that's our SWF. Now, what do we need in order to embed our Flash movies into SWFObject, or into our page with SWFObject? Well, first of all, we need SWFObject, and it actually comes packaged with CS5. Hang on a second. It actually comes packaged up with CS5, and you can actually export your Flash movie, and it'll write all the code for you. Like I said, I'm old school. I'm not used to that yet, so I actually just download the SWFObject folder from the website, and the 3 files that you need to worry about are SWFObject.js, expressinstall.swf, and in our case, I'm going to use indexdynamic.html. So I have some in here already, but I'm going to go ahead and drag these over, and I'm going to replace those. Replace. Okay, so why don't I open this in TextMate? Okay, so here's what we get. As you can see, here it's just calling in SWFObject, and here it's actually embedding our page. I need to go ahead and change the name of this SWF to the SWF that I made. So fundraiser.swf. This is the name of the div I wanted to display in my content. You can change this to whatever you want. The height and the width, the width and the height, 160 by 600. That's the standard tower ad size. Okay, and so right now, if I am to open this, here's our fundraiser meter. You can see it has the default values, and the reason that is because we haven't passed it any variables, but we can do that right now. Way you do that, say var flash vars, and if you're a Flash developer, I'm sure there's a lot of advanced Flash developers out there, probably not watching this tutorial, but if you're a Flash developer, it's so good to know a little bit of JavaScript, some PHP, all that stuff. So this is good stuff to know. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm just creating a simple JavaScript object called flash vars. I'm going to just create a new variable inside of that. Sorry, had it spaced out for a moment. Flashvars.goal. I'm going to set that to 1200. I'm also going to set a variable for actual equals how about, okay. So once you create your flash vars, you want to go ahead and pass them into your SWFObject embed method. So at the very end, say use these flash vars. So okay, so what happens now when we compile it? There you go. you can see that we have 1200 and 193 is 16% of that. If I were to change this to 200, once again, 17%. So that's how you pass some variables into your Flash movie with SWFObject. I'm going to pause right now because in the next little segment I'm just going to show you how to add some additional functionality to this. But this is really the meat of the tutorial. This is so helpful, and there is many other tutorials about SWFObject, and I think that you'll find it useful to have this in your tool belt. I know I find it useful all the time, and it comes in handy, and everyone uses it. So anyways, this is good to know, and I'll see you guys in a sec. Alright.